Life happens to all of us. At some point, you have come face to face with a problem or circumstance that made your life slightly or greatly more challenging. Sometimes these problems come as a result of external circumstances, which we handle as it comes. However, if you are getting the same problems over and over again, it might be an indicator that there is something that you need to change. We don't realize it, but there is a possibility that some or even most of the problems that we face in our life is because of ourselves. Sometimes it is behaviors, thinking, and decisions that we make that do not help us in the long run. Usually when one makes a bad decision, they learn from it. However, some people can be so stubborn that they refuse to change in any way, leading to them sabotaging their life. So here are 4 signs that you are sabotaging your own life. Number 1. Having a negative mindset. Thinking negatively is one of the major ways in which one can sabotage themselves. If you are always thinking pessimistically, you will not see value in anything. For example, if you don't see value in getting into a relationship because of how it has always ended for you, then you will sabotage yourself by preventing yourself from meeting new potential partners. You think the worst of everything. You question intentions, complain about life, and you don't see good in anything. Negative thinking is a stumbling block, and while it may have formed for a very good reason, it can sabotage your life greatly by letting it fester. Paul, when he wrote to the Romans, implored the following in Romans 12. Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. To remove negative thinking, we need to get our minds thinking on God and His Word. When we read His Word, we discover God's mindset and His perspective on everything. When we keep our mind focused on Him, His promises for us, His plan for our life, how He loves us, and what He desires from us, our minds leave the negativity behind. We see God and His hand in everything. When we renew our mind to God and the Scriptures, our minds become realigned to God, and our thinking and decision-making becomes clearer and better. Number 2. Impatience. A good amount of problems in your life can come from something as simple as being impatient. People get into fights, cancel deals, and even break up over waiting too long. Of course, there is a valid point of time where anger and disappointment can be justified when a reasonable amount of time has passed. The impatience that I am talking about here has to do with making rash decisions as a result of impatience in an unreasonable situation. An example of unreasonable impatience can come from being told that you have to wait a few minutes to be served, and then making it a major deal when you do get served. In a society where everything is instant, we have conditioned ourselves to get whatever we want now. God works oppositely. He does not do things rushed, but rather waits for the perfect time for things to occur. He knows when is the right time for certain things to happen. This contrast with how the world works is bound to cause issues. However, God's method is tried and tested. It always works. One of the fruits of the Spirit is patience. So having patience is an indicator that God's Spirit is within you. The lack of patience can also mean the opposite. While we may feel frustrated that we do not get our breakthroughs in our timing, we can trust God with His timing, and if we leave everything in His hands, He will ensure we get everything that is meant for us at the right time. In Galatians 6 verse 9 it states, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Let us not be impatient and demand everything instantly. By being patient, we honor God and His timing, and we allow the Spirit to work through us, helping us to become more understanding and patient, leading to better decision making. Number 3. Acting before thinking. Imagine charging headfirst into shark-infested waters without carrying any safety equipment. When you're in the water, you end up realizing the situation you are in, and it is only then you start trying to look for solutions to the problem. Many people live their lives like this, simply doing whatever they want without considering the consequences of their actions. Many people act brashly, simply acting on impulses and emotions without using reason to analyze a situation. You end up causing so many unnecessary problems in your life because of the lack of restraints. Sometimes the best way to handle a situation is just to sit back and be quiet, and thereafter think about what your next move is. Jesus criticized the impulsiveness approach, teaching us that we must count the cost in everything that we do, including following Him. He says in Luke 14 verses 28 to 30, "Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, 'This person began to build and wasn't able to finish.' Do you not count the cost? Think before you act. It will save you from unnecessary problems that could have been avoided if you did not act impulsively." Number 4. Blaming everyone else except yourself. There are two types of people when it comes to the locus of control. There are those with an internal locus of control, where an individual believes that they have the power to change their circumstances and make a positive change in their life. Then there are those with an external locus of control, who essentially believe the opposite. They think that they are a victim to their circumstances, being powerless to change their situation. These kinds of people often have a victim mentality, blaming everyone and everything else for the condition of their life. It is never their fault. This point ties into number 1 because it is a mindset and idea that a person had conditioned themselves to believe in, forming a major part of their identity. This is a major stumbling block because it comes as a result of not handling issues and circumstances properly. At the end of the day, whether we like it or not, we are responsible for our own lives. We may not be responsible for how we have grown up and what happened to us, but how we handle it going forward is our responsibility. Paul writes in Galatians 6, "Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone, without comparing themselves to someone else. For each one should carry their own load. Nevertheless, the one who receives instruction in the word should share all good things with their instructor. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." We must turn to God to help us overcome this dangerous victim mentality. We need to see ourselves as God sees us, and we find this in His Word. In Christ, we are the righteousness of God. In Christ, we are more than overcomers. In Christ, we are a new creation, always victorious, and never a victim. We need to get this mindset, meditate on it enough, so that we accept that this is indeed our identity in Christ. These are just some of the weights that sabotage us. If you are struggling with any of these signs, you need to realize that you have destructive behaviors and you need to make the active effort to change them. Ask God to help you to throw away these weights that are weighing you down and watch how your life will become easier and simpler because of it. It will not be an instant change, but as time goes by, as you put in the effort, you will be victorious as Christ leads you to freedom. Let us continue to walk in the light as He is in the light.